Hello, my name is Steve Sinclair, and I'm the Director of Forests with the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation, and I'm here to talk about the woods in your backyard. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. Not only am I a small woodland owner, but it's a program that we started back in 1998 after the ice storm that came up along the East Coast. We recognized that many small landowners, similar to you, were impacted by tree damage as a result of the ice storm, and we wanted to provide some form of technical assistance, information, and education. So we started a backyard stewardship program, which went on for a few years, but went away, and now we're very excited about working with UVM Extension to offer this new opportunity for small woodland owners to learn about their woods. So, you own some woodland. Maybe it's 20 acres covered with trees, or it could be 10 acres with a clump of softwood trees in one corner. Perhaps it was an old sugar bush with mature sugar maples, or 2 acres of abandoned pasture that's just reverting back to forest. Whatever your situation is, small forests are a big deal. Purchasing a home and the land associated with it are often the biggest investments that landowners make in your life. And it's important to go about researching, understanding your investment, and managing it wisely like you would do anything else. This program is to try to give you those tools and information for you to make wise decisions. Vermont is currently 75% forested, but it wasn't always that way. 150 years ago, the state was almost 75% open. This drastic shift is a combination of abandoned farms and the resilience and renewable nature of one of Vermont's greatest assets, its forests. Vermont's forests are privately owned for the most part, with over 80% of the land owned and managed by people like you. One of the recent trends has been the graying of society, and that is reflected in the average age of Vermont woodland owners, approaching 60 years old. Woodland owners are diverse, and the reasons that they own land are diverse as well. Some own land for solitude and protection, others for wildlife habitat benefits, some for a supply of cut-your-own firewood, and others for outdoor recreation. The National Woodland Owners data suggests that over 40% own their land for its beauty and recreational value. Our forests are getting smaller as well. Forest parcelization, breaking large properties up into smaller ones, has reduced the average forested parcel size in Vermont to less than 50 acres. We've designed this program for owners of woodland in the 10 to 20 acre category, enough to recognize and realize the many benefits that forests provide. You don't have to own 50 acres of land to benefit from trees and forests. Small forests are a big deal. Many woodland owners could be considered accidental forest owners. They wanted property out in the country, and it happened to include some woodland. But whatever your interest in owning woodland, there's benefits and values that can be managed for your benefit and the enjoyment of you and as your neighbors as well. Vermont is a hardwood state, with over 70% of the state dominated by deciduous trees. Maple is the dominant species, representing a quarter of all the live trees. It's a good thing being the state tree, but there is some concerns about having such a monoculture vulnerable to pest infestations and climate adaptation. Common evergreen species include pine, hemlock, and spruce. The natural landscape of Vermont has been shaped by many things: climate and elevation, bedrock and superficial geology, topography, hydrology, and past land use history. Putting all these factors together allow us to split Vermont up into 8 biophysical regions. Forests and landscapes in the Champlain Valley differ from the spruce fir dominant forests of the northern highlands in the Northeast Kingdom. The oak forests of the Taconic Mountains vary in species from the beech, birch, and maple forests in the northern Green Mountains, where I live in East Montpelier. Where you live shapes your forests and their context in this broader landscape. One of the things I like to talk about is the forest continuum, starting from the street trees planted along medians and sidewalks in our cities and towns and their varied ecosystem values and benefits, leading to suburban households with fruit and shade trees for beauty and pleasure, to small woodlots like your own and those benefits that we'll be discussing in a minute, to those working forests and larger forest blocks in our more rural environments, to finally the alpine forests of our Vermont mountains. This continuum goes from higher population and fewer trees to the opposite, but wherever we are along this continuum, forests have values. Although Vermont's trees and forests seem to be a constant green backdrop to our daily lives, there are threats to our woods we all love. Invasive pests are at our doorstep, threatening the health of maples, hemlock, and ash. Forest fragmentation, caused by development, breaks up large forest blocks into smaller units, still capable of providing forest benefits, but diminished. Climate change may, over time, shift the species mix in our woodlands and make them more vulnerable to severe storms. Our woodlands are of tremendous value, both for us as landowners, but also to the state as a whole. Trees provide an array of environmental benefits, often called ecosystem services, that we all enjoy whether we own trees or not. Trees and woodlands clean the air, provide for clean and abundant groundwater, reduce noise and pollution, moderate climate, and store carbon. They are important habitats for a variety of wildlife species and provide outdoor recreational opportunities for all. From an economic standpoint, trees and forests provide wood fiber, lumber, and maple syrup. It's the second largest manufacturing sector in the state and employs over 10,000 workers. Tourism relies on our healthy forests. Over 1/3 of Vermont's residents heat with firewood. And just because you have a small woodlot doesn't mean that you can't contribute to the state's economy. Those benefits can be derived no matter how large or small your woodland. So how does your 2, 10, or 20 acres contribute? Trees and forests know no boundaries, and their function and values do not stop at your property line. Fly over the state of Vermont and look at the forests. You don't see property boundaries. You may see a stone wall or a different change in land use, but the forests and the ecosystems services that they provide do not stop at your borders. Water flows, the winds blow, wildlife trek, and species migrate as nature intended. The actions that you take on your property affect your neighbors and vice versa, and the ecology of the woods around you. And you need to recognize this and manage for that, not only for your values, but for those society values that we all appreciate. We should all be stewards of the land, regardless of how much you own, where it's located, and what are our ownership objectives. Land ownership is a right, but also a responsibility. Decide how you want to manage and enjoy your woodland. Get into the woods and see what you have for resources. Look across your fence and property line and see how the woods connect to your neighbors and the woodlands around you. Go online and get a bird's eye view of your property and how it connects to the greater landscape. You'll start to see and appreciate how your small forest is part of a bigger system, that small forests are a big deal.